Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Eden District Council's council meeting. I'm Councillor Andy Connell. I'm the chairman of Eden District Council, and I'm taking the opportunity to welcome everyone to this virtual council meeting, which is being streamed live on the Eden District Council website. Before I start the meeting, I'm going to hand over to Lisa Tremble, the council's monitoring officer, who will take us through some formal announcements. Lisa.
Thank you, Chair. As you have already alluded to, this meeting is being hosted remotely as a result of the coronavirus pandemic, and regulations that were brought in as a result of the Coronavirus Act 2020 allow us to hold our meetings in this way. The various elements of the regulations are being complied with in that we allow officers, members and members of the public to participate in our meetings, whilst our current rules of procedure as set out in our constitution continue to apply. This meeting is being live streamed and it is also being recorded, so will be available after this meeting has concluded. Just in relation to a bit of housekeeping for members, if I can please remind you to keep yourselves on mute and your cameras off when you are not speaking, and to turn them both on when you are speaking. There is a chat function available for members to indicate that you wish to speak or to report any technical issues. There is a 4-hour limit on this meeting, so if we haven't concluded our business in that time, we will adjourn and reconvene at a later time. Voting tonight will be via general assent unless members indicate that they would like to have an unofficial recorded vote, in which case when their name is called out, please respond verbally whether you're for, against or whether you wish to abstain from the motion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, the monitoring officer. And we're now going to proceed to agenda item 1, which is apologies for absence. I have received apologies from councillors Lawson, Lynch, Sorey, Cookson, Thompson and Dew. Are there any others?
Chairman, it might be worth mentioning that Councillor Meadowcroft isn't with us yet. We haven't received apologies, so she may yet join us. OK, well, the roll call will of course take place in due course. Before it does, however, Councillor Dew telephoned me this morning. He's aware that many councillors will have heard of the misfortune that struck his family, and it was his wish that briefly you were informed of the situation. I'm sad to say that Mrs. Ann Dew suffered a severe cerebral hemorrhage on Tuesday. She was taken by air ambulance to the James Cook Hospital. Phil and his family have been with her, though when Phil rang me, he was back in Cumbria. However, the situation remains a grave one, and I assured him, and I know I can speak for both councillors and officers in saying that our thoughts are with him and his family at this very trying time for them. I'd now like to introduce the members of the council by means of a roll call, and we'll combine that with agenda item 2, which is declarations of interest at the same time. The monitoring officer will read out your name, and can you respond with present or here? If you have a declaration of interest to make, then do so at that point. I don't think it's necessary to say no declaration of interest. Silence after assenting to your name can be taken as you're having nothing to declare. OK, over to you, monitoring officer.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Armstrong.
Present.
Councillor Baker.
Present.
Councillor Banks.
Present.
Councillor Chambers.
Present. Thank you.
Councillor Clark.
Present. No declarations of interest other than regarding the agenda. Thank you.
Councillor Connell.
Yeah.
Councillor Derbyshire.
Present.
Councillor Isles.
President, I'd just like to inform the chair that I'm recording the meeting for my own purposes.
Thank you for that information, Councillor Isles.
Councillor Fearon.
Present.
Councillor Greenwood.
Present.
Councillor Hanley,
Present.
Councillor Harker, Councillor Harker.
Present. Oh,
I heard you. Thank you very much. Councillor Holden.
Present.
Councillor Lancaster.
present.
Councillor Martin.
Present.
Councillor McCall.
Present.
Councillor Meadowcroft. Councillor Nicholson.
Present.
Councillor Patterson.
Present.
Councillor Rain.
Present.
Councillor Robinson.
Present.
Councillor Ross.
Present.
Councillor Ruddle.
Present.
Councillor Ryland. I'll come back to Councillor Ryland. Councillor Sharp.
Present.
Councillor Simpkins.
Present.
Councillor Smith.
Present.
Councillor Taylor.
Present.
Councillor Todd.
Present.
Councillor Tonkin.
Present.
Councillor Wicks.
Present.
Councillor Meadowcroft, are you in the meeting? Okay. Have we got Councillor Ryland back in?
Lisa, he's just sent me a message. He's switching his computer back on. He dropped out, but he's going to try his best to get back in again.
Right, no problem. Thank you very much, Councillor Lancaster. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. We now move on to agenda item 3, which is the minutes of our previous meeting, public minutes C1 70/02/21 to C1 85/02/21 of the meeting of the council held on 25th February 2021, to be confirmed and signed by myself as a correct record of these proceedings. Before we move on to any corrections or that may need to be made, do I have a seconder, please?
Councillor Lancaster, I'm happy to second.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lancaster. Now I know that Councillor Greenwood wants to speak to the minutes, and there may be other councillors. As always, if you wish to speak, will you do so rather than by raising the hand? If you put in the chat function, speak. Thank you. Councillor Greenwood.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to request that the public minutes, which are C1 82/02/21, record the words which were the thanks for the directors of the Heart of Cumbria in the public section of the Heart of Cumbria minutes. So please could these be added to the public minutes? Members acknowledge the hard work of current and previous directors involved in the Heart of Cumbria Limited and thanked them.
Okay, thank you. I can confirm my memories from speaking from the chair that thanks in the public part of the meeting were expressed to the endeavours of the directors, indeed. With this addition then, can I assume that all councillors are content that the minutes be approved?
Chair, could you check your seconder, Councillor Lancaster is happy?
Councillor Lancaster, yeah. Are you happy with that?
Yes,
with
I'm
that
happy with the
addition?
amendment. Yeah, I'm happy with the
very
amendment,
much.
Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Right, if there are no dissentient voices, then the minutes are indeed approved. And we now move on to Chairman's announcements, I think. Lisa.
Apologies, Chair. Councillor Ryland is back in the meeting. If he could just verbally confirm his presence and that he doesn't have any declarations of interest, please.
Thank you. I'm present and no declarations of interest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. So we now move on to Chairman's announcements. A number of things. I will try and keep them brief. You hardly need me to tell you that we've been in the grip of the COVID crisis for a past year, with a succession of lockdowns. Since the last council meeting, the Prime Minister announced a roadmap for the easing of the lockdown. Lateral flow testing has continued and increased locally for businesses, schools and early years providers, as well as, of course, the ongoing programme of vaccination. And it's good news to be able to report that cases in Cumbria have stabilised over the past few weeks, Eden included, to a current rate of 10 to 15 per 100,000 inhabitants in Eden. Unitary authority consultation. You will be aware that the public consultation process for unitarisation, as proposed by government, is now underway. Eden District Council and Carlisle City Council hope that local residents and businesses will back their proposal, but as you will note, there are 4. This is an 8-week consultation, and views and responses can be made either by organisations or indeed by individuals by Monday the 19th of April 2021. A personal suggestion I would make is that if you have a preference, it might be wise to express a second preference given the multiplicity of possibilities. Census 2021, this took place on Sunday the 21st of March, when households throughout Eden were asked to take part in the nationwide survey of housing and the population, and I'm advised that information from the Digital First Census will help decide how services are planned and funded in the future. Business grants. In March 2021, this month, Eden District Council has further widened its eligibility criteria for a grant scheme aimed at local businesses affected by the December Tier 2 restrictions imposed upon Cumbria. And I can report that Eden's local restriction support grant, the open one, has helped almost 570 local businesses to the tune of £607,000. An announcement relating to investment in arts and culture. Eden District Council has appointed Howard Tompkins and TEAM team to lead on 2 significant projects for the residents of and visitors to the Eden Valley. Howard Tompkins is working with the council on a feasibility study for the potential redevelopment of the Penrith Town Hall building. Team are cultural consultants and producers based in Eden. In addition to working on the Penrith Town Hall feasibility study, team will also be delivering a 3-year project to develop capacity and programming opportunities for cultural organisations and artists in Eden. I've also been asked to mention the Eden Festival, which took place last Saturday, the 20th of March. Highlights Rural Touring in Eden District Council have been inviting communities across the district to engage in COVID-secure arts activities and events on and offline through their joint initiative called Highlighting Eden. Communities across the area were invited to take part in the Light Up Eden Festival, which took place on Saturday 20th of March, inviting individuals, businesses and schools to light up 1,000 windows, doorsteps or gardens with homemade lanterns. And indeed, I think everybody who's seen the window lighting up in action will agree that it's been a very fine initiative. One other thing that I would like to mention, hard copy papers are now sent to all members unless they specify they don't want them. Unfortunately, the post out for this meeting was delayed until the calendar of meetings report was finalised, which resulted in some members not receiving their copies until today. I apologise to all members who were inconvenienced by this, and assure them that it is not the intention in future that the arrival of papers should come so late. Now, before we move on to the next agenda item, 3 councillors have requested the opportunity to make a statement to council. Individual statements are not linked to one of them isn't linked to the other 2.
First of all, Councillor William Patterson.
Chair.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. Before you continue, Councillor Meadowcroft has joined the meeting. Can I just ask her to confirm she's present?
Of course.
And if she has any declarations of interest, please.
Present or no declarations of interest.
Thank you, Councillor. Chair.
Before we move on, one councillor's indicated in chat that she didn't receive a paper at all. I'm very sorry to hear that, and can only reiterate that we hope that this doesn't happen again. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to address the council meeting. Since the September meeting, there has been some confusion as to what brings the applications to a council planning committee. So as chair of planning, I would just like to go through the 5 reasons that the 5 things that bring applications forward to the planning committee. Number 1, applications for which an approval would be contrary to policy, i.e. departures and potentially justifiable exceptions. Number 2, applications which are considered by the Assistant Director of Planning and Economic Development to be of a very controversial and sensitive nature, or which have aroused significant public interest on valid planning grounds. Number 3, applications for which an objection from a statutory consultee, that is as set out in the Town Council and Country Planning, which has received on valid planning, which is received on valid planning grounds. And the Assistant Director of Planning and Economic Development is inclined to approve the application. The approval of applications subject to the Parish Council objection on valid planning grounds, or the refusal of applications which has received a representation in support from the Parish Council on valid planning grounds. Number 4, applications subject to a request by an objector to address the planning committee and that the objection is based on valid planning grounds. And finally, number 5, applications subject to a request by a councillor or member on valid planning grounds to have a matter determined by the planning committee. I thank you, Councillor Connell, for this opportunity to clarify the reasons for what brings applications to committee.
Thank you very much, Councillor Patterson. Before I move on, I now know that at least one of the councils didn't receive hard copy of the papers, and I appreciate, although these can be accessed, of course, online, many councils prefer to have them in paper in front of them and understand this. So, and I will repeat for the last time that we don't intend this to happen again. Now, Councillor Margaret Clark wishes to make a statement, so over to you, Councillor Clark.
I would just like to state that 4 members of the former Independent Alliance group have left, or should I say more correctly, the former members of the Independent Alliance left us on Monday or Tuesday night without a word of warning. We had a quick meeting, and it was quick. It was less than 5 minutes, in which Councillor Robinson came onto the screen and told us that she was leaving, and they were leaving as well, because there appears to be a difference of opinion and interests within our group. So now I am the leader of the group. of true independence on this council. We are not allied to anyone else. I believe in democracy and transparency, and I'm sorry to say that I don't think we've been well served since this last administration was formed. I think that will do for the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Robinson, I believe you too would wish to take this opportunity to make a statement. Thank you, Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to take that opportunity. I'd just like to say that on behalf of the Independence Alliance, that I'd like to say to members and our residents, we will continue to work for the very best outcomes for Eden alongside our coalition partners. We've been working hard to improve poor housing through the schemes for improving heating and insulation to those communities who are worst affected. There's £400,000 to help our Eden businesses meet their carbon targets over the coming years. And we're currently finalising an economic strategy which will support our businesses to build back better after the terrible year that we've all had. We're well on the way now as well to completing the One Eden project, and work can pick up pace now as we hopefully come through the pandemic, and staff who have worked so very hard making sure businesses got their grants they needed and the track and trace was prioritised can start to get back to their day job. It's not been easy for them to do all this from home, but they've been truly marvellous, and I'd like to thank them all. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. We now move on to agenda item 5, which is questions from the public, and it's my understanding that no questions from the public were received prior to this meeting. We move on to agenda item 6, questions from members, and once again it's my understanding that no questions were received from members prior to this meeting. And it's deja vu because agenda item 7, motions on notice, no motions on notice have been received. We move therefore on to agenda item 8, which is the pay and pension discretions policy statement for the year 2021 to 2022. And I'm going to ask Councillor Karen Greenwood to present this report and propose the recommendations. Councillor Greenwood.
Thank you, Chair. So this is the Pay and Pension Discretions Policy Statement for 2021 to 2022. The Pay and Pensions Policy Statement is a statutory and technical document required under the Localism Act 2011. It requires local authorities to prepare an annual statement to be approved by full council before the end of March. The statutory requirements to be included within the policy are set out at paragraph 3.2, and these are all incorporated within the statement, which is set out at Appendix A. There are no material changes to the Pay and Pension Discretions Policy Statement for 2021 to 2022. The minor changes that have been made are set out on page 1 of Appendix A. Once approved, the statement will be published on the Council's website in line with the requirements of the Localism Act. So, Chair, I move the recommendation that the attached Pay and Pensions Discretions Policy Statement be adopted with effect from the 1st of April 2021. Thank you.
Now we'll try again. Thank you very much. Before we move to a seconder, I see that there's been a self-nomination for a seconder, but prior to our doing that, are there any questions on the document before you, whether in paper or on screen, which any member wishes to put? Okay,
Councillor Isles, I see in the chat function you've indicated a wish to second. Could you confirm that verbally, please?
Yes, I'm happy to second the motion.
Thank you very much. There is an opportunity to debate this resolution. If anybody wishes to do so, will you please indicate in the chat if you wish to speak to it? There being no indication, we move to a vote, and I think it's pretty clear that there are no objectors to this. However, if any councillor wishes it to be a roll call vote, would you please speak out now? In that case, monitoring officer, we take the motion to have passed, and we move on to agenda item 9, which is the proposed calendar of ordinary meetings for 2021 to 22 and 2022 to 2023. I've been asked to propose this. You have the documentation, with apologies to those who didn't get it in hard copy, but it's available online. You have the documentation in front of you. There are two charts. Appendix 1 is for the year 2021 to 2022, and the second document is for 2022 to 2023, it being understood that whatever happens or doesn't happen in respect of local government reorganisation, this council will remain in being until the end of the administrative year 2022 to 2023. So I'm proposing this. Do I have a seconder? Well, before that, are there any questions? I'm sorry, any questions, please indicate through chat to ask about the calendar of meetings. Yes, we have. Okay, Councillor Holden, a question.
Yes, thank you. It's just a comment, really. In the chart at the bottom of page 3, it lists all the different committees which meet, but in 3.2 on page 4, it mentions the Budget Planning Committee, which has not been included in that chart, just to make clear that it should have been included in the chart of committees. Is a comment really rather than a question.
Okay, I suspect though an officer may be able to correct me that this was not an intentional omission, and we can assume it should be there. We're talking about the chart at the bottom of page 3. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
It was simply an omission. There's no desire to remove Budget Planning Committee from our calendar of meetings.
No. Sure. Thank you very much, and that of course is confirmed by its presence in the two appendices with dates for its meetings this coming year and the year after. Okay, any other questions? In that case,
sorry, Chair, Councillor Wicks has indicated that she has a question.
Sorry, Councillor Wicks, I beg your pardon, I've just seen that. Yeah.
Thank you. It doesn't reflect on the dates. However, I just wanted Lisa, our legal clarification over the makeup of committees. I presume now we have 6 groups. This will be reallocated seats.
Yes, Chair. Sorry, Chair. Sorry, Councillor Wicks. That is something now that we have had formal notification. We will take the administrative steps to realign all of our committees.
Okay, my apologies, Chair. It wasn't to do with the dates, but the makeup of the committees.
You're quite right to raise this point. Now, of course, and since you have raised it, I'll just briefly say now, of course, we have 2 independent groups. I think they will adopt names that will distinguish them one from the other. Obviously, this will need, by the officers, recalculations on representation on our various committees of the groups on the council, since there's now an additional one. Okay. Now, I think, do I have a Councillor Clark? Is this a question or a comment? If it's the comment, I'll get my seconder first, please, and then you can comment. So I take it not to be a question.
Yeah, by all means, Councillor Connell, that's fine.
Yeah. Councillor Ruddle, can you confirm by speaking out what you've indicated in the chat that you're willing to second?
I am willing to second, Chair. Thank
you. Councillor Clark.
I would just like to say that we will retain the title of Eden Independent Group, whatever Councillor Robinson wishes to call us. We are true independent, and I reiterate that again.
Thank you. Any comments on the agenda item before us? Councillor Isles.
Yeah, I'd just like to comment on the comment. Isn't an independent group rather a contradiction?
May I say, I think we are straying from the agenda item, which is about the calendar for meetings. So I'm sorry, I don't want to pursue that one further. This is a later issue, the names that various groups adopt for themselves. Councillor Ryland.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to make a comment with regards to 3.2.9 on the calendar of meetings. I believe we do still need a structured, dated procedure for the portfolio holder meetings. I'd like to add here, actually, whenever I've contacted and felt the need to contact portfolio holders, they have actually responded very promptly and very efficiently. But over the past 2 years, we actually have had quite a number of cancelled portfolio meetings. And so for the benefit of future communication, I feel changing it to ad hoc meetings really isn't good enough, and I would really like no change to the scheduled monthly portfolio meetings. I'd like that to remain the same. So can 3.2.9 please be withdrawn and leave the meetings as they were, and if they have to be cancelled for any reason, can we carry on that way? Thank you.
I know Councillor Taylor wants to speak, but Councillor Ryland, if this is an amendment, then you'll have to propose it as an amendment.
Right.
And get a seconder.
Thank you very much indeed, Chair. So I would like to propose that 3.2.9 be withdrawn and just amended back to what it would normally be in the calendar of meetings. Thank you.
I'm not quite sure what's meant by it would normally be, but
well, the portfolio meetings would just be scheduled in the dates. This is changing it to ad hoc meetings.
Right, thank you. There may be an officer on that, but first of all, I know Councillor Taylor wishes to speak. Thank you. And then we'll before I do that, I see you have I believe you have a seconder. We'll get that out of the way. Councillor Lancaster, you've indicated, will you confirm verbally that you want to second Councillor Ryland's amendment?
Yes, I'm happy to second Councillor Ryland's amendment, Chair.
Thank you, which is that a timetable of portfolio holder meetings be reinstated.
Yes, yeah, that's
you. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. I believe that the scheduled portfolio meetings, and perhaps I could ask for confirmation of what I'm about to say, is in the past was, as it were, analogous with the licensing meetings in that they are regularly scheduled should there be business to transact in the meeting. And the business of the meeting isn't discussions about business so much as decision making, because portfolio holders have, you know, as part of our constitution, can make decisions, and that those scheduled meetings are for decision making, and there are actually not very many to make, and so there are far more meetings cancelled than held, and that this was seen that it would be more practical and less work and less clutter in the calendar for it to be done the other way around, i.e. that they are called when they're needed and not cancelled, which you will have seen from your inboxes happens extremely frequently. There are far more cancelled than there are held. So I don't know if an officer wishes to clarify what I've said, but I believe that is the situation, and I see no benefit for having things in the calendar where they will be announced and as and when they need to be held. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Isles.
Yeah, more of a question really. I noticed that the situation of cancelling portfolio holder meetings has gone on several years. I just wonder whether there's any requirement for a notice period before these meetings are held, or whether the officers and the portfolio holder can agree date amongst themselves. I'm just curious as to that.
I don't know whether an officer is able to answer your question. I certainly can't. But Councillor Greenwood wishes to speak. Oh, yes, monitoring officer, please. I think the opportunity for you to respond to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just in relation to Councillor Iles' question, the statutory publication timeframes are the same with any other public meeting. So we would still have to give notice that we intended to hold a portfolio meeting and publish the necessary documents and reports, so that the obligations are the same because it's a public meeting.
Thank you very much. Councillor Greenwood.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say that regarding the scheduled formal portfolio meetings, that these meetings, as the leader has just said, they're not really needed, and so they're just going to be called ad hoc as and when they are needed. Nothing's changed. So when we came into administration, this executive decided that rather than have decision making in portfolio meetings, we would bring everything to executive with exceptions. So occasionally one or two things do go through formal portfolio meetings, but by and large, on the whole, most decisions come to a public executive meeting, which is held once a month in public. So everything is transparent and open and in public. And so nothing has changed. The Constitution doesn't need to be amended. Formal meetings can happen as and when, and most decisions of this administration will be made through the executive. So this is the prepared wording to answer this question. The executive is and always has been committed to collective decision making, and portfolio holder decisions should be the exception and not the rule. This leads to a process of scheduling and then cancelling meetings each month. The change is therefore an administrative change to call portfolio holder meetings as they're required rather than to schedule them unnecessarily. And I'd just like to thank Councillor Ryland for his comment about the accessibility of portfolio holders. So we are very committed to being accessible to members, and we're happy to take questions. Thank you.
Councillor Wicks, you would like to speak?
Yes, Chair. Given that we are going to have the benefit of an LGA governance review, which is talking about decision making and all these sort of things, would it not be an idea to put this issue on the back burner with regards to actually having proper portfolio holder meetings, because they might come back and say that's something you really need to do?
So are you then speaking in support of the amendment?
I think we could actually go with the amendment, and then if because I think they'll come back and say they need to be held, but that's my opinion.
Right, thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Okay, we have an amendment to the resolution that I moved. Oh, well, Councillor Greenwood, you've spoken once. So I think on the amendment, there's only one speech permitted. Depending on what happens to the amendment, you could speak again on the main motion. Okay. So we have an amendment. The amendment better be made clear by Councillor Ryan. I don't know what to put words into his mouth. So, and the officers obviously need to be clear what precisely the amendment is saying. So can you please tell Councillor so they know exactly what they're voting on?
The amendment is that number 3.2.9 is withdrawn. And so the eventuality of it being withdrawn, it will just revert back to what it was previously. The portfolio meetings would be structured and there would be no change to what's happening actually now. But it's just the ad hoc, and I feel we should remove that, withdraw 3.2.9, and then, as Councillor Wicks has said, we wait for the LGA review and we can move on from there.
With respect, that is a very long amendment.
No, I just want 3.2.9 to be withdrawn, Chair, please. Yes, that's simple for members. I think it'll help actually if it is. Thank you.
Monitoring officer, before we go to vote, please, you have every right to speak on this.
Chair, I just believe this needs some clarity. And whilst I understand what Councillor Ryland is trying to do by removing the provision for ad hoc portfolio holder meetings, by simply removing it and not replacing it with anything, it leaves us in a position where we have nothing about portfolio meetings. The purpose of this report is to set a calendar of meetings. And so by removing that, the statement that they're going to be ad hoc, we need to replace it with, I appreciate you're saying you're using the previous structures, but the purpose of this report is about setting dates that we can look to the future and plan for. So, and I appreciate this isn't the time nor the place to set the dates. So it might be that your recommendation is that 3.2.9 is removed, and there is a further report to committee that would set out the dates of the portfolio holder meetings.
Thank you, Lisa, for the clarification. You've made it very, very simple. Thank you.
So to be clear, councillors, what we've got is a proposal that 3.2.9 is removed, pending a report which would produce a calendar of portfolio holder meetings. That's what you're proposing. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Is there any councillor who hasn't spoken on this amendment who wishes to speak? In that case, I think we proceed to a vote. I hope the councillors are clear what is being proposed. There's an amendment. Yeah. So I invite our monitoring officer to call the roll. And you answer for, against, or abstain.
Thank you, Chair. So for the purposes of clarity, if I could just remind members on what they are voting for. You are voting for the calendar of meetings at Appendix 1 to be approved. You are also voting in relation to all members and standing deputies of the Planning, Licensing and Accounts and Governance Committees, that they undertake full training prior to these committees' first meetings in each municipal year. And then 2.3 will be amended to reflect Councillor Ryland's recommendation that I want to say 3.2.9 is removed, and a report will come back to committee with a calendar of portfolio holder meetings. Thank you, Chair. Councillor Armstrong.
For.
Councillor Baker.
Against.
Councillor Banks. Councillor Chambers.
For.
Councillor Clark.
For.
Councillor Connell.
Against.
Councillor Derbyshire.
Against.
Councillor Isles.
Against.
Councillor Fearon.
For.
Councillor Greenwood.
Against.
Councillor Hanley.
Against.
Councillor Parker.
Against.
Councillor Holden.
Against.
Councillor Lancaster.
For.
Councillor Martin.
For.
Councillor McCall.
Against.
Councillor Nicholson.
For.
Sorry, Chair. Just bear with me a second, please.
Chair, if you just give me one moment, I'll carry on with the. Sorry.
My apologies, members. Councillor Patterson.
Against.
Councillor Ray. Councillor Robinson.
Against.
Councillor Ross.
Against.
Councillor Ruddle.
Against.
Councillor Ryland.
For.
Councillor Sharp.
Against.
Councillor Simpkins.
Against.
Councillor Smith.
Has been locked out of his machine.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Against.
Councillor Todd.
For.
Councillor Tonkin.
Against.
Councillor Wicks.
For.
Just
Chair, I make that 11 votes for the motion with 18 against.
Thank you very much. So the amendment. Sorry.
Excuse me, Lisa. I've not voted. It's Angela Meadowcroft.
My apologies, Councillor Meadowcroft.
Oh gosh, yeah. Please, Angela.
My vote's for.
Thank you. My apologies.
No, that's fine.
Chair, I make that 12 votes for the motion, 18 against.
Okay. I think, irrespective of how Councillor Smith would vote, the amendment will be defeated, and so we revert then to the original proposal, which is as it is before you. Can I assume that, we can go through a roll call vote if you like. Alternatively, we can accept that the amendment is not carried, and therefore, as all the rest of it was approved in the amendment, can we assume that it is all now passed? Okay, if anybody wishes for a roll call vote, please say now. In that case, the motion is passed and the calendar is accepted with all the further details. Right, that brings us to the end of the meeting. The date of the next scheduled meeting of this council will be the 29th of April 2021. Member services, can you advise me when the live event has ended?